Overfield, and this video will accompany the review section of ELIAS, which is ELIAS Composer Studio, which is kind of like a middleware. It's a sort of middleware that you can use to aid composition for video games. So when you're talking about vertical scoring or interactive audio based on the actions of a character within the game, it's kind of like that. I will talk about it more in depth in the text below, just about the origins of it, where to get it, and this, that, and the other. But in this little video, I'm going to accompany the article with a short example of what I've been writing, and it's fit quite nicely because there's been a ELIAS Composers kind of competition where you write something, etc., 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 using ELIAS, and kind of submit that to the board, who will pick a winner, and you get $1,000 or potential job writing for the guys, and your theme goes online. Now, the whole point behind this is you can't really use it for a track you currently have. It doesn't really make much sense if you've just got, this is this thematic theme, this is thematic track. Goes from A to B, start, middle, end, whatever. This needs to be something that you kind of write for the engine or with the engine. I wrote a small piece of music called War is Home, which I submitted as part of the competition type thing. It's not finished, it's still a long way off, but it's getting there. But I'm able to use that as an example for my Sound Architect review. Okay, so I may waffle on a little bit, and you may find that I'll edit some bits and bats, this and the other. But here it is. I have ELIAS Composer Studio. When you originally open it up, the window sometimes looks a bit smaller, but here we go. You have essentially your tracks, and on these tracks operate like a similar door, but they go from north to south rather than from east to west, which you'll find in Logic. So you essentially, these numbers here are the levels of your track. One great example that I've seen in kind of modern music composition for video games is the way Jason Graves showed us how he composed for the Tomb Raider game, whereas the music would intensify if you got closer to an enemy. There'd be a little bit more of a ambience. If you started firing at an enemy or you were seen, then the music intensifies even more, and while you're fighting this, that, and the other. And then as you've won the battle, or if you've run away, or if you've died, the music changes. But the thing about it is, the game engine doesn't know that you're about to die, or the game engine doesn't know that you're about to get that headshot and finish the fight. So it has to be able to react to the player's actual actions. And what this does is here, this sets a temperament for the engine itself. So I think it can be used within Unity and used within kind of like as a not a replacement, but another different piece of middleware compared to things like Fmod, Wise, etc. Even Kismet, which was very, very basic previously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my demo, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it and show you just how easy it is. Now, originally, let me just show you the track that I've written. This is a very, very basic mock-up. I've got some percussion, I've got some strings, I've got some winds, I've got some brass, I've got a little bit of piano, X, Y, and Z, and some tubular bells. Okay, so either way, I have a mock-up here, and this mock-up I started writing because I just wanted. The brief was kind of like a battle for Earth type thing. You've finished in the war, but you've still got this hunger to fight, blah, 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 blah. And I started writing this track. And I developed it without much percussion, with hardly any brass, and no woodwinds at all. It was literally just strings, a little bit of the big percussion hits, and that was it. And in doing so, what I found is I got to the end, and I thought, this is great, but it needs some thickness, it needs some additives. But the point is at any point over this track, I mean, the length is what, 4 minutes 35-ish, something like that. At any point, the music could intensify. So how would you write that the music intensifies? All the tracks playing at one time sound a little bit like this. Apologies if it's loud. But this isn't originally how it may start. This is actually kind of a more intensive part of the track, although I've only written for 10 layers. But you need to think, well, would you have those big drums? Maybe not. You wouldn't have the second set of woodwind, maybe, or the second set of strings. You might not even have the extra pianos there. Oops. You might not even have the bells or the xylophone. You may just have some of the articulations are a little bit off, but you get the gist of it. So what I did is I wrote the track as it was, bearing in mind that I needed to have thickness and layers, so doubling up on strings, doubling up on brass, adding some counter melodies, adding something that's a little bit more fierce. Later on into the track, it gets a bit heavier. It's like something like this. You don't want to hear all that sometimes, so maybe get rid of some of these percussive things. You don't need the ostinatos, the strings. Maybe get rid of the winds. Get rid of that low box rhythm. Doesn't sound as epic or as intense. That's what I've wrote anyway. Like I say, apologies if I'm waffling on a little bit, but let's show you what it looks like in ELIAS. Okay, now when you bounce your tracks out, I just did it in a basic thing. So what levels of each I wanted to see. All right, so I bounce everything in one folder. Level 1 brass, level 2 brass, level 3 brass. Same for percussion, same for... I did a couple of stingers, but to be fair, they sound crap. So I don't know if we're going to let you listen to them. Few layers of strings, because I love my strings. I lace everything with strings, and yeah, it's just me. Winds, yeah, a little bit here and there. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to open my project folder as the completed project. Okay. So it's going to look like this. Bounces project. Okay, so this is what I did. You can easily add a track by going into theme, add new track, add yourself a new track. You're not limited to just 4. I've only used 4 simply because that's what we got told to use in the what you would call it, the competition. So I'm going to delete that track there. And here you can see on each level I've decided where to put strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Brass, 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 winds, winds, and perks. Now, as you can see in my mock-up, I have many more different levels of percussion, strings, etc., etc., etc. Xylophone, tubular bells, this, that, and the other. What I've done is I've incorporated a few into each. So with the strings, I've also put the pianos. With the brass, I've kept them on their own because I think they're powerful enough to cut through and hold their own. Same with the winds. With the percussion, every part of the percussion is in there. And the way it's recorded, like you can see, I've paused a lot here. So I may have recorded the entire brass track on its own. And then level 2, I would have recorded both brass. I've recorded it, but each one, say for example, string layer 1 would be this layer, all on its own. This small legato patch that's kind of, you know. And over here we've got. Okay. String 2 will have been the counter melodies. Over here again. some minor notes. Just kind of spreading out the kind of sonic layer of that. My terminology is a little bit off because I just write what I write, and it sounds good to me, then fine. So yeah, string layer 1 will have been these strings on their own. String layer 2 will have been these strings and these strings, possibly incorporating these. String layer 3 would have been all of them. And then I set a separate set of string layers for the staccato patches, or the ostinato, but they call the ostinato patches because I were using the Spitfire Albion patches, so I just decided to call them that. So what happens is you decide to record them, and you bounce them all out as WAV files, or whichever file you want. I prefer WAV, but yeah, and you place them in here. You can go to play the theme, and up will come the ELIAS player. Now this is a nice little toy. I like it. You can set the level of your actual track. This level corresponds with these levels here. So essentially, everything on level 1 will only be playing strings, woodwind. If I set it to level 4, I'll be playing everything below that, or to the nearest kind of quantifiable instrument. So level 4 will be playing perk 1, strings 2, brass 1. Oh no, it'll be playing perk 2. Sorry, perk 2, strings 2, brass 1, and winds 1. Okay, let me just bring my player back up. Okay, so you can set this as you're going. Now, I assume that as a middleware engine, if you're using a game engine alongside it, you'll be able to manipulate the audio through that. But either way, your urgency is how quick it snaps. So how quick one track will snap from one state to another state. You're essentially going from game state A to game state B, and all the beautiful little twists and turns you've got on the row. Immediately will mean that it'll snap immediately. Rendezvous, I believe, will match the tempo of the track. Now, you can go to your project settings, or theme settings, and you can previously set the BPM, which you'll see matches what I've used for Logic. Objective is kind of like the objective theme, so you're going from one place to another, a start and an end. That's kind of what I went for. Your standard sample rates, how many bars you've put in there, how many channels, this, that and the other. I've using this device so I can record the audio at the same time. Reverb, phase, agility, and stinger specific, not going to go into just yet. It's just a basic overview. Really, really loving how it is. I mean, I've used Wise a little bit. I've used Fmod a little bit. Sometimes I can't seem to wrap my brain around it. But using this, it's been quite clear and easy to use. You can move things about very, very easily. You know, dropping things from one channel to the next, this, that, and the other. Anyway. In each channel, you have separate settings for each. So you can turn on how much of you want it in the mix. You can add the size to it. You can add the dampness of it. Basically, the reverb section. Because I've previously recorded this with room tone on all the instruments, it sounds very reverby anyway. It's got quite a decent tail. So I've left that out of there. I'm not going to be using that at the moment. Settings, you can choose how much volume your track's going to be, how much you can fade it in and fade it out, crossfade, fade out. Agility, I'm not quite sure about. I think it is the minimum amount of time before it comes in. Any time will be random. 173 bars, could be any place over there. 1 bar, 2 beats, 1 beat. Anyway, so I'm going to turn agility off for the moment, and we're going to see what it's like in its basic settings. I assume key is so you can create key switches on these, so you could write the same piece of music in a different key and have key switches in there for victories, fights, alternative sequences in the same game that you're playing. So where's my player gone? There you are. Hello. So I'm going to leave it at level 1. I'm going to bring the urgency right down because I just love the way it doesn't start straight away and jump from one kind of game state to the next. I'm not going to choose a key because obviously that will correspond to this, and I haven't really set any keys for it. And I'm not going to use a stinger. 1, because like I say, they sound a bit crap, and 2, because, well, yeah, I haven't really worked on them very much. They're not going to fit into this situation just yet. So you can go to play, and it'll play it back for you. And as you can see, it indicates what's playing at the moment. So at the moment in these you've got the piano, the kind of tuned piano with the strings, just one layer of strings. Now if you set the urgency to 100 and I go, boom, level 10, it's going to go straight to it. That sounded awful. Did you hear that? The brass came in straight away. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the urgency to around about 15, 16, something like that. It's just something I like. You can manually change it in here too. I'm not going to make it immediate. I'm not going to make it rendezvous with the track. I'm just going to let it flow in. Okay? If you want to hear what it sounds like now, so let's just say an enemy is about to appear and attack me. So all of the tracks are playing at one time, something bad's happening. But you know what, I'm not going to engage in that enemy. I'm not going to engage. Don't want to engage. Let's set some settings on. So I'm going to have some fades in here. I'm going to turn some imagery on, maybe I don't know what I'm doing here with this. I need to read the tutorials. Dale Crowley, who's done some great tutorials, and you should look these up. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to be like 1,000 maybe. I don't know. I'm going to set some agility on these. Just one bar. The fading. Set them all on. Crossfade, fade out. I'm not going to put any reverb on, like I said. So we're listening to the track now, still at level 1. But you know what? Something might be around the corner, there could be something around, so I'm going to bring it up. A couple more tracks are playing. Level 5. But no, we're still not going to engage. We're still not going to engage. Some strings and the piano in there. But watch this around the corner. Might want to put more agency on that there. Maybe the fading is a little bit too high. The crossfade is a little bit too high. This is usually where you put stinger tracks in between the two, so you could have like a battle like this. And you have a stinger in there when you're about to finish. So you've beaten the enemy or you've gained the prizes. Whatever it is, it could be good or bad, you can put a negative stinger in there. I'll just show you quickly. The two stingers I wrote for this were game over and level complete. Both of these stingers still need quite a bit of work. Do you know? This is just the basic staccato. Still needs a lot of work, like I say, in regard to its production value, but it's a basic setting. You can decide at what level you want all these to come in. I might want my first bit of cushion and my brass to all come in at the same time. So in that circumstance, in fact I'm going to put this over here so I'm not constantly zooming in and out. I could have this start over here and play it. So I've already got percussion. Or if I don't want, I could put these back away. And I've just level 1. stop this. Play again. There you go. There's no percussion there. Oh, could I have percussion in there? Anyway, that's a basic overview. At this moment in time, I'm loving it. And regardless of whether there's, a good or a bad outcome for this competition, it's great to get my hands on this, and I'm pretty chuffed. I'd like to see more of what it can do. So yeah, it's kind of a basic overview of ELIAS. I know that I'll be using this to kind of better my own compositions while I'm still practicing, cutting my teeth in the composer world. It'd be good to be practicing interactive audio rather than just writing a linear piece of music. I mean, you can bounce it as a linear piece of music by all means, and it'll sound okay, but you're able to record this as you're going. So let's go here like this. Record thing. So anyway, yeah, that is a very brief overview and look at ELIAS Composer Studio. I will talk in a little bit more depth in the actual article in regard, like saying, the origins and the development of it. But so far, loving it. Going to continue to use it, and it's a great tool. As you can see here, you can have, whether your RAM will allow it or not, but up to 100 different levels of music. So essentially, you could write hours and hours of material all based on one track. Now, imagine how immersive a world could be, for example, if you're playing an open world game like Grand Theft Auto, where you can literally change from one small game state into a stupidly epic game state, to going to play some pool, or to picking up a fair young lady of the night and then beating her up for the money. There's so many possibilities with it, and it's not the first middleware engine to be able to kind of process your audio through, but it's a great way of being able to visually see it and look at it as the aesthetics of it just make it look very good. But yeah, I'm going to continue playing around with this, and I will leave a link in the description to my current, it's not the final, my current version of War is Home in the link below. There'll also be bits and bats of how to get in touch with ELIAS and how to download it. It's currently free, by the way, which isn't bad at all. So yeah, I will see you guys and girls and people and stuff next time. So take care of each other, and